Well, I did want to, first of all, it's good to see everybody this morning. I did want to start out, this is really the first time I get to speak publicly since the passing of Bud Grant, and I think people in a short amount of time are probably aware of how close Bud and I became this year. The relationship from really day one walking in the building to all the way through my first year as a head coach of the Vikings to be able to weekly meet with him, all the things he was willing to share, all the guidance, all the knowledge. It was just something that I really enjoyed, those weekly get-togethers with both him and Pat. And I'll miss those. I'll miss being around them. But I feel so fortunate to have had this year with them. And a huge part of year one in Minnesota was my relationship that I built with Coach, and will stick with me forever. So I wanted to start out and just make sure I got a chance to say something about Coach. And as far as being in Arizona for the league meetings, this is year two for me being here. Very unique experience being around our whole entire league, general managers, owners, and the other 31 head coaches, and just trying to continue to go through this offseason shaping our team and getting ready for year two, and hopefully building upon a lot of positive things that we accomplished in year one.
Kevin, when that relationship started with Bud, was that something that you sought out or you got introduced to him? How did that get going?
You know what, Ben, it was really he was at my opening press conference, if you guys remember, which meant a lot that he would even take the time to do that. But then that day he said something along the lines of, we should grab lunch next week, or I come by. I'm coming back in the building a lot more, and I said, Coach, anytime I can get we can have a meal together. You can just come by. I'd love to come up to your office on the third floor, and he kind of just took me up on it. And then a week or two later, it was, really the cool part was the Thursdays throughout the season, and Bob Hagan had a lot to do with that, kind of the great relationship he had with Coach Grant, and just kind of, hey, Kevin, I think this would be a really good idea, and how it all came together. And then really it just seemed like, Ben, it just seemed like kind of part of my, how process-oriented we are. That meeting became part of my process on Thursdays, right in the middle of the week when you're about to, you've kind of been at it, grinding on the game plan. Sometimes that, whatever, he always had a one-liner or something that would just put a smile on my face or bring some levity to what we all take very seriously each and every week. So that was really cool for me.
What have you thought of just the way this offseason has played out the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think it's still, everything still seems to me to kind of, be a plan that's in motion, but also that, there's a lot of things that are still ongoing. Kwesi and Rob have done a great job getting us under the salary cap, still giving us a clear-cut goal of what we want to get accomplished this offseason, but at the same time, understanding we can only control what we can, and we want to push forward knowing we've got a chance to really build on our football team and, have a lot of success in year two.
Kevin, at the Combine, it sounded like the Vikings really wanted to keep Dalvin Tomlinson. And there was a deadline extended to try to make that happen.
Yeah.
So why didn't it happen? How did they end up leaving?
Well, I think free agency is always, it's always a unique part of the process when other teams can, start speaking to a player that was on your roster. We built these unbelievable relationships in year one. Dalvin Tomlinson was one of those guys that I'll always hold near and dear to my heart just because of how much he poured into our team and me as his head coach in year one. So we would have loved to have him back, and unfortunately, that's kind of how it is. I would love to keep all of our players from last year on the roster and just keep building and building and building, but that's why we come to Arizona and we talk about a lot of rules and competitive rules that put together the roster. So we wish him nothing but the best. I'll always, like I said, think highly of Dalvin, and the Cleveland Browns got a good player.
Very popular player. What made him so popular?
I just think it's the consistency of doing his job day in and day out, when so much gets made of, those high-profile pass rushers on the edge. So much gets made of, these flashy plays that fans can see. But I think fans really appreciate that, that kind of all three down, run game, pass game, blue-collar kind of physicality that Dalvin plays with. And I know that's what I appreciated about him, because when we didn't have him in there for a 4 or 5 game stretch there in the middle of the year, I felt it, and I know our coaching staff felt that. So it's going to be a void, and we've got some good young players and that will have to step up to go along with players we add and in the draft and free agency.
Kevin, across the league, downfield passing is at a lowest level since I think 2006 as far as passes to go 15 yards or more.
Yeah.
Is there a reason maybe that you can point to that you've noticed maybe why that was a trend this last year, and is that something that could continue?
Yeah, I think it, even looking back, me personally, to what I wanted to really do my first year in Minnesota, I think you're seeing a defensive scheme that really, one of the foundational points of a lot of defenses nowadays is put a roof over the coverages. What does that mean? Stay deeper than the possible deepest threat that you could get. We do a lot of things to try to attack different levels of the defense, but if you're not capable, or because of the defensive design, to get over the top of that, there's probably a reason why those balls are being completed under 15 yards. The explosive gains are still there. A lot of times, even what we ran into at times was just air in the coverages when you're trying to keep that top shelf deep and safe back there. You end up with a lot of intermediate air in the coverage, and that's where you can get a lot of explosive pass gains through that middle. And then I just think we've got some real dynamic receivers in our league, none more than who we have, number 18 in Minnesota, and people are going to good coaches want to take away what you do best, whether it's Justin or Tyreek Hill or Devontae Adams. Those guys are getting a lot of shell coverage and trying to take away those big plays.
Hey Kevin, Sean McDermott in Buffalo is going to take over the play calling on defense this year.
Yeah.
What kind of balance challenge is that during the week and also in the game to take care of the team and your role as a play caller?
Yeah, I think, I know he's always had a huge impact there defensively. But the one thing I would just say in year one for me was really the game day of managing the game, managing the situations, making sure you're as involved in special teams and the other side of the ball as you are with the side that you're calling, and not getting too carried away with any one particular play that happened. So much of it has to be a forward mindset. And as a play caller, a lot of times you want to be able to go back and, hey, I've run, I might have called this coverage 3 or 4 times, or on offense, I might have called this run scheme 3 or 4 times, and want to chart it all, but you got to really be able to react in the moment. He's obviously a great situational management coach, and like I said, he's called a lot of defense before, so it's probably going to be really fun for him.
Yeah. Were you able to game manage while calling plays your first year?
I was, and I was lucky enough to hire a guy actually that had been in Cleveland, Ryan Cordell. Was a guy that I was able to bring in. I had a previous relationship with him, so did Kwesi. And he was, you can't really put any kind of number or hey, this is how important it was. It was monumental for me to have Ryan upstairs in my ear, real-time dialogue. What Ryan does such a great job of is in this analytics world, he just gives me the percentages say do this, but ultimately he still knows it's my feel in the situation and how the game's going, how are we playing in all 3 phases, but give the information in real time at a pace and that keeps up with kind of how things are going really quick on game day, but never to overload too much information in that moment that it kind of cripples me from making a decision. So it was huge, and I don't feel like I could have, there's a lot of things I need to do better, but one of the things that I know I'm going to continue to do is listen to Ryan Cordell when he's saying things in my ear.
There's always contract situations every year. With Kirk, seems set to play it out going into the last year of his deal. Do you treat it like every other contract? Do you address it with him? Like, how did you view that situation as it kind of unfolded?
Yeah, Kirk and I have had a ton of dialogue throughout the offseason, just really in anticipation and excitement of his year 2 in our offense. I mean, you think about Kirk Cousins, and really, he actually brought this up to me. The last time he had the same voice calling plays and the same system in his ear was, Sean McVay, 2015 to 2016, before Sean took the job in Los Angeles. So this will be really cool for him to be in the same system, call the same formations, the same plays. Him and I got a great rapport as far as a lot of that goes. So I'm just excited to see him in year 2, and we're kind of my goal is that 2023 is one of the best seasons Kirk Cousins has had playing quarterback in the NFL, and when that happens, I think it's going to be a really good thing for the Vikings.
Kevin, what made Brian Flores the right fit for you guys? And are there things that you noticed? I mean, he's been doing this a long time,
Yeah.
but that year with the Steelers, did he talk about anything that he kind of gained from that he can take into this?
Yeah, I think the best thing about the interview process with B Flow was it didn't really feel like an interview. You know, I had a lot of things that I wanted to get, a lot of boxes I was trying to check from a standpoint of getting this right, because I knew how important it was for our organization, and in the process of doing that, it just became very conversational. My personality kind of jumping out, his kind of matching that, and understanding how similar our football philosophies were, how important it is for him to really play complementary football, not so much, hey, we've got a great offense, so we just want to go out there and just hold on to it. No, he wants to, if we've got a great offense, he wants that defense to be competing to try to match that, and same with special teams. And I just think the aggressive nature that, his background kind of on tape, and when you really study his defenses and what it's like to play against his defenses, was something that I've always been intrigued about. I've had a previous relationship with him, but I'll tell you what, this first month has just been fantastic with him, and his personnel background from his days in New England, where he was evaluating prospects for the draft. You just feel his experience. I definitely feel his former head coach experience when him and I are talking about how we're going to build the offseason program, how we're going to build training camp. He's been huge for me.
And while you guys got him from Pittsburgh, Patrick Peterson now comes to Pittsburgh, a nice
Yep.
little full circle moment. But in your experience with him, I mean, he talked a lot about he's an older guy. He knows that he needs
Yep.
to be in the right spots. What were you guys able to do that made him so effective last year?
Well, I think one of the things where I was really looking forward to seeing how Pat would do in our system, and albeit we changed systems and all that stuff, but the way Pat P played in our system, I thought he thrived. I really did. I thought different from how he had played, just simple techniques and fundamentals of how he had played at a Pro Bowl level for basically his entire career. We asked him to use that experience, but kind of compartmentalize it to, hey, I'm going to apply it this way in this defense. It's totally different. And I think the special players, the great players in our league, can take their previous experiences and apply them in a way to make it, the 2022 version of Pat P. And I'm sure he'll do the same thing with Mike T and some great defensive coaches in Pittsburgh. But I think some players, they try to apply the previous experience, and it kind of overtakes what you're asking them to do. Pat P never let that happen. And oh, by the way, he's a phenomenal leader. Was huge for me in my first year. He's one of those guys, like a Dalvin Tomlinson, that I look back on, and I'm very thankful we had in 2022.
As you look at your quarterback room at the moment with Pat being gone, I guess two parts here. Do you look at Byron Murphy as a guy that plays in the slot or outside, and what else do you think that room needs to be ready for 2023?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, adding a guy like Byron Murphy was huge, because it allowed us to have a player truly with that inside-out flex, that base defense, he can be an outside corner. Nickel defense, he can go inside. And it's great to have the skill set to do it, but the mentality to do that, because they're really two different worlds when you're playing those positions. I've seen some players do it in the past at a really successful clip. Jalen Ramsey used to do it for us in LA. But I think Byron's going to be something where, he's so instinctive. He's got great ball skills. When he gets around the football, he tends to get the football, take it away, and like he did against the Raiders to go win it, he'll take it across the goal line. But I think the number one thing that jumped out at me is just this guy loves football, loves competing. He's played a lot of football, 25 years old, and so much great football ahead of him. And I think that flex of his inside-out traits is a positive, but at the same time, we know we need to add either through the draft or potentially some other veterans. We need to add some more numbers in that room, and also the off seasons that Caleb and Andrew Booth are having. Those guys are in the building every day. They're pushing each other. They're doing all the things that we're asking of them right now in what is a really a voluntary kind of. They're just in there working out on their own, choosing to be in our building. And I think there's going to be some real positive things that come with that. So a lot to be, that room will be a very competitive situation throughout the spring and training camp. You guys know that, and I'm hoping to see some really good things come out of that room.
Kevin, I'm sorry if somebody asked you this. I wanted to ask you about Brian Flores, what he brings to your staff and what you liked about him.
Yeah, I was, we were talking about B-Flow a little bit. The experience as a former head coach, defensive coordinator of a Super Bowl winning team, really his personnel background going to his initial, few years in the league in New England. You feel all that experience. I think his personality and how he wants to play defense really matches up well with how I see I see our whole football team playing from an aggressive standpoint. And then ultimately as a head coach, that's what I really wanted to try to find, was to pair up with somebody on the defensive side that kind of mirrored my personality in a way, so that when we take the field for that 3.5 hours on Sunday, when we look out there, whatever phase of offense, defense, or special teams, I want it to be a reflection of my football philosophy. And Brian's right there with me, and he's been great for me early on here.
Having a former head coach on the staff, how much does that help?
I think it's Mike Pettin's been on the staff as the assistant head coach, Brian Flores now as another. What it does is it just provides me with a lot of resources, a lot of conversations. Hey, I'm thinking of doing the off-season program like this. It could be scheduling. It could be simple as what's the best way to have meetings and then get on the grass and then maximize our time. How did you used to do it in Miami? How'd you do it in New England? How'd you do it with Pet when he was the head coach in Cleveland? So to have those resources for me, it's huge. At the end of the day, I still make the decisions, but it's like anything. You get real, tangible feedback from somebody who's done it before. That's priceless for a young head coach.
Kevin, every coach in this room uses data at some level, and decision making, that kind of thing. It's a weird question, but I'm wondering, do you ever, because you get second guess so much in this league, do you ever have to kind of measure how much you talk about that stuff publicly? Because there's sometimes a perception like, he's just blindly following numbers, even though that's ridiculous. But does that make any sense to you?
It does, and I think the crazy thing about, it's not crazy, but the unique thing about a lot of the data and the situations that come up when you're making decisions in a game, you're talking 53-47. You're talking 51-49. The decisions make themselves when they're any higher than that. A lot of times that's why there's still a gut feel to those margins and those 3-4% margins where the right thing to do from a standpoint of the analytics, but then there's also how the game's going. What's the situation of the game? Does your team need a significant momentum-changing play that sometimes can be staying on the field? Sometimes a punt or a play in the kicking game can be that significant play, as our team figured out firsthand this year with either long field goals or Ryan Wright having such a special year pinning the ball inside the 10. Field position is still a huge part of our game, and all of those things basically lead into, I think everybody, for the most part, organization to organization is probably working off of similar numbers. You maybe weight them differently based upon your personnel, your home field advantage versus maybe weather on the road, whatever it may be. But ultimately, it's still a decision that has to get made, and when it gets made, everybody's got to be all in and then know exactly what the expectations are in those situations to try to maximize your performance.
Is that a learning process? For especially a newer.
It's one of those things, as a play caller, I think it helped me in year one because there really was no middleman. I could decide I wanted to go for it. I'd had the play call in mind when making the decision of whether you want to go for it or not, as opposed to some offensive coordinators just are waiting for the green light from the head coach. Okay, we're going, or we're in 4-down territory. Me having that in the back of my mind when I make the 3rd down call is a huge part of it for me. So I do like that fact that I do get to kind of make that decision and the play call in the moment. But it also, too much is given, much is required. So there's a lot that goes into it.
You only coached in NFL. With each quarterback contract these days seem to be like the next biggest one.
Yeah.
From the team side, what's the challenge in trying to build a roster when that's the situation? I know it's not necessarily the situation you guys are in right now. But.
Well, I think, I think it's one of those things that if you are building a roster around one of those quarterbacks, and a quarterback that's kind of resetting the market, as we've seen some of these young guys do coming out of the rookie, their first 4 years in the league, you're probably in a good position, at that quarterback position, which is, if you ask everybody in this room, that's the number one thing. Organizations are always, if you've got a quarterback, you're excited. If you don't, you're excited to go find them, because it is the most important position. Now, it's clear the benefits of drafting one, and having those 4 years of that player, on kind of that, scale that allows you to build a roster around those players, has been an advantage. It's been an advantage for since the rules kind of changed there, and but at the same time, whether it's whatever quarterback you want to talk about that resets that market, those guys are franchise-changing players as well at the most important position in sports. So it's not a cliche to say that position really defines a lot of buildings in the NFL.
Do you feel like bringing in Josh Oliver? I mean, you talked at the combine about shell coverage, that type of thing, but how much have you thought about attacking that this upcoming year, and how much guys like Josh Oliver and potentially running the ball more effectively could help?
Yeah, I think it's just the balance of what you want to be on offense. I think, a lot of times we were successful moving the ball via the pass last year, and what ended up happening is that becomes, something you can game plan coverage, double teams on JJ. If you're playing zone coverage, how you're loading zones to wherever he is, still allowing to, trying to make Kirk hold the football and take some hits in the pocket. The attrition of that on some of those normal downs is what I think stacks up late in games. And then he was remarkable late in games, leading us to comeback victories and closing some many of our 13 wins out, with just great quarterback play in the end. But I think the balance on offense, Alec, is one where it takes the pressure off of two people, the quarterback and the offensive line. And if we can run the football a little bit more efficiently, marry the run and the pass with play pass keepers and screens and different variations of our pass game on our terms, I think that's going to bode well for teams that want to feature so much coverage to Justin, so much of an emphasis to what he does and what we do in the pass game. We've got to take advantage of that, and we've got to run the football, and we've got to move the ball efficiently, and I think doing it like that will take some pressure off of some of those normal downs, so that when we get to the weighty downs, those third downs and red zones, and we can be that much better off.
I know you only coached him for 1 year, but what are some of Irv Smith's biggest strengths, and what do you feel like he brings to an offense?
Yeah, I think he's great with the football in his hand. We found ways, either screens or on some of the keeper game, movement game, we found ways to get him the ball. And then once he has the ball in open field, he's very rarely going to get tackled by the first defender. I thought, he was having a great training camp and had a little bit of a hand, finger injury that happened that didn't slow him down by any stretch, because he was still out there working. But just getting acclimated in our offense, he was having that great training camp, so it was tough to see that. But just watching the way he got off to a good start with us, and then he got dinged up with the ankle during the season. I just loved seeing the way he battled and came back from that to be a part of our team in the end and help us in Week 17 in the playoffs. And I really enjoyed coaching Irv and wish him nothing but the best. And I think the best thing, just because of where he's at in his career, I think there's a lot of really, really good football out in front of Irv, and I know he's motivated to go do that.
Can a guy like Bono take advantage of that?
Aaron Haynes in D.C., you spent time in Washington, and I'm kind of just getting the pulse of some of the former coaches. What's your take on now seeing your former owner as that transition of ownership is happening with Dan Snyder?
Yeah, I don't really have, I'm not really up to speed on a lot of what's going on there. I just know, I enjoyed, my family and I enjoyed our time, coaching in Washington, and getting an opportunity to do that from Mr. Snyder, I'm very, very thankful for, and being around some great coaches and some great players, and getting a chance to be around Kirk Cousins again as a quarterback in Minnesota takes me back to those early days in Washington when I got a chance to coach him there. But I'm sure all that stuff will get worked out, and I'm obviously a fan of Coach Rivera's, and still a lot of the players that, there are a few players still there that were there when I was there that really enjoyed coaching some of those guys. Terry McLaurin comes to mind, that you just want the best for those guys, and that's really all I got to say.
Okay, when you add Marcus Davenport, you add Dean Lowry, How do you see that pass rushing group coming together when you still have Za'Darius, still have Daniil trying to put that whole thing together?
Yeah, I think that's the one thing. I know Flo talked to you guys about it at his presser. Was we're going to take a look at what the landscape of our entire personnel looks like, both on the back end, the front, with our ways of getting after the quarterback, at the second level at the linebacker position, and then you could really build the multiplicity that comes with hiring a guy like Brian Flores. He can play. The perfect examples over the years are just watching the way the New England Patriots could reinvent themselves: 4 down, 3 down, 7 DBs on the field, base defense to 11. They all of that comes from different chapters in that playbook that allow you to have player ownership of it. Because it's one thing, we've experienced it on offense. It's one thing to have a lot of offense and a lot of ways you can draw crazy stuff up on the board, but the players can't own it and take it to the game. It's really not even worth having. So that's where I think the real secret sauce for Flo is he makes it learnable. He can have carryover to different personnel groupings, different positions, alignments, and the guys can have razor-sharp clarity on what they need to do. So we'll see, Ben. We'll see exactly what that picture looks like. There's still some things via the draft and kind of the second and third wave of free agency. We'll see kind of what shakes out. But I'm just excited to see that whole picture kind of come into clarity and how Flo is going to use those guys.
The last 2 minutes, everybody. Talk about how much you believe in KJ and talked about the pass catching options. But as you look at that room and that position group, obviously with Adam now gone, just how do you evaluate that group as a whole?
Yeah, it's always a great starting point when you mentioned Justin Jefferson. He'll always be our number one. He'll always be our guy that we're trying to build a pass game around. That with complementary players around him that are major focal points of our offense and that can win one-on-one matchups and can be great with the ball in their hands. After the catch and. I think KJ showed, I think back to that Indianapolis game, Chicago, that first third down, huge catch down the field, just the versatility he has, and then really how he understands. He's a really smart player, understands how he pairs with Justin and trying to beat some of that coverage that Justin tends to see. And then excited for a guy like Jalen Naylor and Jalen Reagor to kind of get a chance to really compete and have the ability in year 2 to play multiple spots and handle that, which is really, really important. And then obviously we've got the tight end position, which I'm really excited about with TJ, who changed our team and our offense so much a year ago when we got him. And then pairing him with Josh Oliver and Johnny Munt and Ben in that tight end room and Nick Muse, you feel like you've got some. If you want to have 3 tight ends in there, we can. If we want to play the game with 5 wideouts, we can. If we want to play the game on our terms, I know I say that a lot, you've got to have the personnel to do that, and we feel like we do.
And you've kind of talked about seeing teams that will show one thing in terms of scouting and then they play completely different when they see Justin on the field.
Yeah.
How much of your offseason has been spent trying to think of ways to counter that or get matchups back on your terms when they're doing that?
A lot, Ben, a lot. And it's more so it's hard to do sometimes in-game with the plan of attack that you're going into, especially in year 1. Sometimes I tell people this, but some things we did in LA, by the end of the season with Matthew Stafford allowed us to do in-game adjustments that maybe you didn't practice. Maybe it's not even living on the call sheet, which, happened a couple times this year for some game-winning plays. And for that to happen in year 1 is pretty remarkable. And I give our players a lot of credit, Kirk, our pass game and how it kind of came to life. But there's ways to study it. You go back and see how elite receivers are being defended around the league. Different tactics. Whether people want to play, a 2-deep man under. If they're going to try to reroute hard. If they're going to try to play leverage man from a single high structure. All of those things you can study and have a plan for. But then we've got to equip Justin with different techniques and fundamentals to kind of add to his toolbox to be able to beat that coverage, which by far is the most fun part of coaching him, is really kind of peeling back the layers on things and letting him kind of really expand on his repertoire, how he wants to win at the line, down the field, and then when the ball's in the air, regardless of coverage, we've seen he's going to go get the football. So really cool.
Last one. Covering the Texans and Bobby Slowick's getting first chance as a play caller. how long did it take you to understand your own tendencies, and like what were some of the lessons you learned through that journey?
Yeah, I think a big thing is throughout the off season. Alec and Ben will probably remember we do a lot of call-it periods at practice, the joint practices, the ways where you're not just scripting. Hey, this is what I think I want to run. You can do that. That's great. But in the end, how many times can you just be reacting to a 1st and 10 to a 2nd and 7? Okay, here's my call. 1st and 10, or run right into a no huddle pass. And you allow the sequencing of the game to kind of be your deterrent from ever being too scripted in any way. But that also requires you to be able to teach a system, especially in year one, which we had experience doing last year in Minnesota, where you've got to be really organized with your thoughts and what you want to emphasize with your players. Because, like all NFL players, what I've learned is you get what you emphasize. And as a play caller, I'm sure he'll do a great job. He's got D'Amico there to in that previous relationship to really stay on top of what they're doing in all 3 phases. It'll be really cool to see how they build that thing.
I talked to a couple of coaches who said like early on you may be a little aggressive and there's like mistakes and you learn from that.
Yeah.
Is there something that comes to mind for you?
I think certain situations where maybe you're going into those weighty downs, those 3rd downs, and you love a play call, but then you're expecting it to be 3rd and 4 and it ends up being 3rd and 2. 3rd and 6, it ends up being 3rd and 1, and you're like, no, I just love the call, so I'm going to run it. Those are the times where you can kind of force some things, and that's what I'm talking about by not feeling like you're scripting the game. You got to be able to react in the moment. You got to be able to put your players in the best possible situations and react to how the defense is aligning, because that's the biggest thing is offensively. It's great to have a game plan. It's great to have those really important Wednesdays and Thursdays meetings with the coaches. But I've learned that, those plans only matter if the game goes exactly how you think it's going to go. And after, 18 games coaching the Minnesota Vikings last year, I'm still waiting for that first game to come about where that actually happens. So every game is different, unique, takes turns, and you got to be able to, lead from the front and put your football team in a good situation. Yeah, thanks, guys.
Have you heard I moved on?
I did, and I thought I was going to get a question or two out of you.
Did anyone ask San Diego State basketball question?
No, that's what I'm talking about. No.
Here's how old I am.
We dropped the ball on that. Give you a chance to play.
Here's how old I am. I saw Tony Gwynn play point guard once for San Diego State.
Now that's some good stuff over there. He was a baller, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Going this weekend? Oh, I got one. Yes. Yeah. I have no comment.
But hey, it was great covering you, and
for real.
Yeah, look forward to dealing with you and someone passing down the road. I got a picture of that. All right, good luck.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I'm a hugger.
All right.